graders. Today is a wonderful Thursday. I hope you've had a great morning so far. I enjoyed seeing some of you yesterday at conferences, and I am looking forward to speaking to more of your parents today and tomorrow. Meanwhile, I hope you're all doing your very best work in your Google Classroom. Our learning goal for today is I can identify cause and effect relationships in a scientific text. The title of our passage is Cloudy with a Chance of Cats and Dogs. And if you take a look, it says the genre is a science article, which means it's informational text. And the author is Nicole Scheffler. Before we begin, I would like you to take a look at this diagram. Remember that scientific texts have text features. So just take a second and look at this diagram. And then I'm going to ask you to make a prediction about what you think this article will be about. Okay, now I want you to take a couple minutes and I want you to read the article yourself. And if you look at the close reader habits, it says underline words and phrases that signal cause and effect. And how do they help you understand that the ideas are connected? So while you are reading the passage, I would like you to, in your notebooks, write down any signal words for cause and effect that you see. Remember, we talked about some of those words yesterday. So, because, as a result of, so if you see any words like that, I would like you to write them down. You can also write down signal words if you see any sequence signal words. That will help you understand the article also. All right, so I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to read the article. Okay, if you are not done reading, you can pause the video so that you can finish. I'm going to go ahead and continue with the lesson. Did the author talk about what you predicted before you read the selection? So remember, before we read, I had you type your prediction in an open-ended question. Did the author talk about what you thought she would talk about? Okay, my next question for you is, what is water vapor? Look back in the passage and see if you can find the definition for water vapor. You may want to write it in your notebook before you answer it in Nearpod so that you can remember. Okay, and what is this article mostly about? Based on the words you read and the diagram, what is this article mostly about? Now, before we move on to the cause and effect chart, I want to talk about some vocabulary. The meanings of some phrases don't mean exactly what they say, and these are called idioms. Idioms can sometimes be confusing, especially if English is not your first language. So, what would you think I meant if I said, at the end of the school day, "School's over, it's time to hit the road"? What do I mean by hit the road? If you answered that it's time to go home or to leave school, then you were correct. So the phrase doesn't mean that I'm going to go outside and hit the road with a stick or with my hand. It means I'm going to leave. Okay, so in this text, it starts with an idiom that says, "It's raining cats and dogs out there." Now, does it really mean that it's raining cats and dogs? No, it could mean that it's a heavy rainstorm. So it does not mean that cats and dogs are falling out of the sky. It just means it's raining really, really hard. Okay, so if you wanted to write the title over so that it was less confusing for someone who didn't understand an idiom, you might just want to change it to "cloudy with a chance of heavy rain." All right, but "with a chance of cats and dogs" is pretty catchy and it makes you want to read more. So that's why the author used it. Now let's go ahead and look at the cause and effect chart on the second page. And it says, "How do cause and effect relationships help explain how rain is formed?" When you read, pay attention to how and why things happen. This will help you spot causes and effects. So I know that cause is why something happened, and the effect is what happened. I need to remember the difference as I reread to gather evidence. So first, I need to find the effect, or what happened, because warm air rises. So I'm going to look back in the article to see where the writer talks about warm air rising. So here it is in paragraph 2. It says, "When warm air rises, it cools down." I know that when warm air rises is the cause. So that's why it happens. So asking myself what happens, I see that it says it cools down, meaning that the warm air cools down. So I'm going to change the color of "it cools down" to purple. So I'm going to leave the cause green, and I'm going to make let me try this again. I'm going to make the cause green when warm air rises, and then I'm going to make the effect purple. It cools down. Okay, so I can check this by using signal words like you practiced with yesterday to rewrite the sentence. So I can say that when warm air rises, the effect is the air becomes cooler. If the revised sentence makes sense and says the same thing as the first sentence says, then it proves the cause and effect relationship. So in the first box of the chart, we have our cause with an arrow, warm air rises, and I'm going to insert a text box, and I'm going to add add the air cools down in a complete sentence that starts with a capital letter and ends with a period. Okay. In the next row of the chart, we see that the effect is already here. It says the water vapor attaches itself to dust to form droplets. So we know what happens. So now I would like you to go back in the story and I would like you to figure out why water vapor attaches itself to dust to form droplets. Okay, so here's our effect. The vapor grabs a ride on tiny pieces of dust in the air and forms droplets around the bits of dust. We need our cause. I see one of our signal words here, and I'm going to put a square or a rectangle around it. I see the word so. So tells us that the effect is after it. So let's look before so and see if we can find the cause. And since we're looking for the cause, I'm going to change it back to a green highlighter. The sentence before the word so says, cool air can't hold as much water vapor as warm air. So that's our cause. That's the reason why the water vapor attaches to the pieces of dust. Okay? So we have our cause, a signal word, and our effect. So I'm going to go back down to the chart, and I'm going to add my cause. Starting with a capital letter, cool air can't hold as much vapor as warm air. All right. Now we have our cause. Billions of droplets come together. So I'm going to look for that and highlight it green. And then I want you to look for the effect. So we're looking for billions of droplets come together. There we go. So there's our cause. And I do see a signal word in that sentence and the effect. So I'm going to pause so that you can tell me what the effect is. Okay, I am going to put a box around our signal word, when. And if you told me that the effect is a cloud is formed, then you are correct. Now notice this time it's in the opposite order. The effect is before the cause in our sentence. So make sure you're paying attention to the signal words. Okay? Let's go ahead and type "a cloud is formed" in our chart. And our last cause is the droplets stick together and get heavier. So I'm going to go back up in the text and highlight our cause green so that you can find the effect. The droplets stick together and get heavier. So remember, I'm making our cause green. All right. They may stick together. They stick together, they get bigger, and when they get bigger, they get heavier. Sometimes they get too heavy for the cloud to hold them. All right, so there's our cause. What happens because they get too heavy for the cloud to hold them? What's the effect? Okay, so I do see a signal word. Then, okay, and it tells us if they are too heavy, they fall to the ground as rain. So that's our last effect. And it does say if it's cold outside, they fall as snow. So I'm going to add that here. All right. So we have read the passage and filled in the cause and effect chart. Since we're asynchronous today, we can't do breakout rooms, but I would like you to think about each cause and effect relationship and tell an adult or a brother or sister at least one sentence showing a cause and effect relationship with a signal word to show how the ideas are connected. All right, please look at this where it says write and short response, because this is what your work in Google Classroom is going to be today. It says, what happens inside a cloud that causes rain or snow to fall? Use signal words to explain the cause and effect relationship. Okay, and it says, hint, begin by making a list of the key details in paragraph 3 of the article. I would like you to write 2 or 3 complete sentences with signal words in your Google Classroom for the question. To get 100%, you must begin your questions with capital letters and end with periods, and you need to use a signal word in each sentence. If you can't remember all of our signal words, look back at the anchor chart, and I will post the anchor chart for you in the Google Classroom as well as the passage. Have a great rest of your day.